Nice launch trajectory and countdown net. Pad is clear.
10, 9, 8.
Launch auto sequence has started.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Go for launch.
Vehicle is supersonic. Stage separation confirmed. Dragon, separation confirmed. Stage 1 is transonic. Landing legs have deployed. And Falcon 9 has landed.
Good morning. You're looking at Falcon 9 behind all the fog, standing ready for liftoff from Vandenberg Space Force Base's Space Launch Complex 4 East at 7:19 a.m. Pacific Time. Hello and welcome to the webcast for SARA 1 on behalf of our customer Airbus. My name is Andy Tran and I'm a quality engineer here at SpaceX. The SARA 1 mission marks SpaceX's 25th launch of the year, and for those of you following along, you know that we launched our latest Starlink mission from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida about 24 hours ago. And following this morning's launch, we are expecting to launch a third rocket later tonight from Pad 40 at Florida's Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Now, at the request of our customer for the current mission, we won't show any second stage views, and we'll be ending our coverage early with the first stage landing about 8 minutes into the mission. Now, before we get any further, let's take a moment to learn more about our launch vehicle. Falcon 9 is our two-stage rocket. It stands about 70 meters tall, roughly the height of a 20-story building. The bottom two-thirds of the vehicle is the first stage and the primary part of the rocket that gets reused again and again. Today will be the third flight for this particular booster. And at the bottom of the first stage, there are 9 Merlin engines that will get Falcon 9 off the ground and up to the thinner parts of Earth's atmosphere. The two stages will then separate from one another. The second stage continues to orbit while the first stage makes its way back down to Earth for its landing attempt back on land. So what you're seeing on screen is landing zone 4, which is pretty close to the pad that it's going to be lifting off from. If successful, today's launch will mark the 125th recovery of an orbital class rocket, including both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy boosters. As for the second stage, it will ignite its single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine about 2.5 minutes into flight. It's this engine that will take the SARA 1 spacecraft to its intended orbit. And for our payload today, it's safely enclosed inside of the 17-foot diameter payload fairing, which is the structure at the very top of the rocket. This protects the satellite from aerodynamic heating, loads, and contamination during ascent. Once we reach the vacuum of space, we will then jettison the fairing halves while the second stage continues to orbit. Our payload today, the SARA 1 satellite, was designed and built by Airbus. Upon its completion, the 4-ton satellite was transported from Germany to our launch site in Vandenberg, California. Here's a closer look at that 25-day journey. And after that long journey, the SARA 1 satellite is now safely integrated at the top of Falcon 9. The next major milestone involves the Transporter Erector, or TE, which is the truss structure next to Falcon 9. In preparation for TE retraction, the TE clamp arms right beneath the fairing payload, the payload fairings start to open up. Now, we do have a bit of fog in Vandenberg, which is pretty typical for Vandenberg at this time in the morning. So I don't think we're going to be able to see the clamp arms opening, but they are opening right now. And after those are fully open, that structure next to Falcon 9 will recline away from the vehicle in preparation for liftoff. The Transporter Erector also routes the vehicle's fluids, power, and telemetry umbilicals from the ground systems to the rocket and satellites until Falcon 9 goes internal on power and clears the pad. It's also what rolls the vehicle out to the pad and lifts it to that vertical launch position that you see on screen. So if you look closely, you can see that we are indeed reclining away from Falcon 9 right now. So we are just over T-minus 3 minutes and counting. All systems so far are go for an on-time liftoff. The range is green. The weather, despite the fog that you see on screen, is also green. And the vehicle and payload continue to be healthy.
Go bleed verification.
If for some reason we are not able to launch today, we do have a backup window on Monday at the same time. And as the clock continues to tick down, it is also worth noting once again that at the request of our customer, we'll be ending the webcast after the first stage landing attempt about 8 minutes into the mission. You can see that there are some clouds starting to form around Falcon 9. That is normal and expected for us at this stage in the countdown. Today's launch is the second of our triple header. We do have another launch about 14 hours from now. But that one's going to be on the East Coast out of Florida.
Stage 2 locks load complete.
So with the call that stage 2 liquid oxygen loading has been completed, that is all of the propellant that is needed for today's mission. That is now loaded onto Falcon 9. So we are pretty much ready to go for liftoff about 90 seconds from now.
Falcon 9's in startup.
Now that we're in startup, both stages are now beginning to pressurize for liftoff.
LD is go for launch.
And that is the final go for launch. We're just under 40 seconds away. Let's listen in to terminal count.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds.
Falcon 9 is configured for flight.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And liftoff.
Vehicle pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
We are just over T plus 40 seconds into flight, and we saw Falcon 9 pierce the cloud layer, and it is up, heading into space. Right now, the Merlin engines are throttling down for a period known as max Q. This is where the vehicle will experience the highest amount of stresses.
Vehicle is supersonic. Max Q.
All right, with max Q behind us, we are throttling the engines back up to full power. We have 5 events coming up in quick succession. First up is going to be MECO, which stands for Main Engine Cutoff. At that point, the 9 engines on the bottom of the first stage will shut off in preparation for the next event, which is SES1, or Second Engine Start 1. Or excuse me, the next event is stage separation, where the 2 stages will separate from one another.
AVAX chilling.
The first stage will perform a flip to make its way back to our landing zone, and then we'll start with SES1, which is Second Engine Start 1, where that single Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage will ignite and continue to carry our SARA-1 satellite into orbit. For today's landing, the first stage will, after it performs its flip, will perform a boost back burn. And then after the boost back burn begins, we'll have fairing deploy.
MECO, stage separation confirmed. Stage 1 boost back burn is starting. Fairing separation confirmed.
Awesome. So we saw main engine cutoff, and we saw the 2 stages separate from one another. We did get audio confirmation of the second engine start on the second stage Merlin vacuum engine. That's pretty much the last call out that we'll hear from the second stage. So we'll just focus on the first stage. That's what you're seeing on screen right now as it's performing its boost back burn. It pretty much flipped and is heading back where it came from. It's going to be attempting its third landing.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown
in a few minutes. So that boost burn did wrap up. In order to complete today's landing for the first stage, it has 2 more burns left. Next up is the entry burn, where 3 of the Merlin engines will reignite, and this will help to slow the stage down as it re-enters the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere. After that, we'll have the landing burn. This occurs just a few seconds before we land, and this is also the period where we'll deploy
Vehicle
our landing
trajectory
legs.
nominal.
That entry burn is happening in about 2 minutes. So we have a few minutes to enjoy the first stage as it continues to make its way back to the West Coast for its landing attempt on landing zone 4. We're seeing some periodic bursts of gas at the center of your screen. That is nitrogen coming from our attitude control systems that helps to orient the vehicle. And this is a view from inside the interstage. And this view is from the top of the first stage, looking downward. You can see 2 of our 4 hypersonic grid fins there. Those, as we get closer, will begin to pivot and tilt. That also helps steer the first stage back to its targeted landing zone. So we're about 30 seconds away from the beginning of our second of 2 burns for this first stage.
Vehicle trajectory nominal.
At the bottom left-hand side of the screen is a velocity gauge of the first stage. It's traveling about 3,500 kilometers an hour now, but once we begin the boost back burn, you'll start to see that number decrease. And then after the boost back burn, or excuse me, not after the boost back burn ends, after the entry burn ends, you'll continue to see the speed decrease as we hit the denser parts of the Earth's atmosphere.
Stage 1 entry burn has started.
And there's the entry burn. So 3 of the 9 engines on the first stage have relit. As you can see, we are indeed slowing down the first stage. So the entry burn has completed.
And stage 1 entry burn shut down.
And in about a minute, we'll have the landing burn. And we'll see if we can land this booster for the 3rd time.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
This is such a cool view of
Stage 1 is transonic.
Going back through the cloud layer.
Stage 1 landing burn has started.
This is a great shot from the ground on the right-hand side.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Terminal guidance.
Landing legs have deployed.
And welcome back, Falcon 9. That is
And
the
Falcon
3rd
9 has landed. Landing
successful
operations
landing for
on
this
LZA.
booster. It also marks our 125th overall successful recovery of an orbital class rocket, including both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy first stages. With that, at the request of our customer, we are going to bring our webcast to a close. Thank you to Airbus for entrusting us with today's mission. It's been an exciting 24 hours with this doubleheader, Starlink followed by Sara 1. If you're looking for some added entertainment this evening, be sure to tune in for our 3rd launch in less than 48 hours, launch of Globalstar's FM-15 from Florida at 12:27 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.